So this is the state of the 2B fish room, and I'm not proud of it. This was, for most of the renovation of the house over the last couple of years, the painting room and the spray booth, where I did a lot of finishing work on cabinets and stuff. I've started to take out some of the drywall, so I know where stud locations are. We've added 5 new circuits, and I've started to mark on the wall just rough locations of some items. This is actually where the back of the tank will butt up against the fish room, and so I needed to know where the stud locations were. And we've got our work cut out for us. So let's talk about fish rooms. There are 4 main considerations, I think, for any good fish room: structural, electrical, plumbing, and then moisture control. We won't talk that much about structural just because it's important enough. You should probably be consulting with a professional contractor or an engineer. Your tank's going to weigh almost 9 pounds per gallon of salt water, plus rock, sand, and the tank itself. So if you're putting it on a second floor or over a crawl space, you should make sure it's situated perpendicular to the floor joists and it's spanning enough floor joists to take the weight. If you're putting it on a concrete slab like I am, you should probably be okay, but it's good to check that out anyway. So electricity is obviously pretty pivotal for a reef tank. If the power goes out, things start to die pretty quickly. So it's important to have an electricity plan when you're designing a system like this. That's pretty easy to do. You can calculate the wattage and the amperage draw for each piece of equipment. And for this system, we're going to have 7 circuits, and we've mapped out all the equipment we're going to have and spread them over the circuits to make sure we're not going to be tripping any breakers. You do have the amperage of the circuit, the amperage of the power bar that you're going to be using potentially if you're running an Apex or similar, and then the individual power draw of each outlet. So there are considerations for all those things. So plumbing. Obviously, access to water in the fish room is important. If it's at all possible to get a sink in your fish room, you'll thank me later. I can't imagine a fish room without a sink. It's so useful. Also, a way to drain water is also important. We're going to be on a slab, so I didn't want to go through the hassle of putting in a floor drain, but I have a way around that we'll get into. Lastly, moisture control. This is one which is often not addressed as well as it should be from the get-go, and this can be the slow, insidious march of humidity over years that can really cause a lot of problems, can rot your walls, can cause really nasty mold growth. So there's a pretty important need to be able to exchange fresh air into your fish room and get humidity out of your fish room. That helps with pH and a whole lot of other issues, not the least of which is making sure that you're not slowly rotting your walls away. So we're going to get into that first off. So this is essentially the first thing I installed in the fish room. It's just a through-wall exhaust fan, and I've hooked it up to this outlet, which I will then hook up to a humidistat. And this is just a through-wall exhaust fan. You can use any number of kind of bathroom exhaust fans. Sometimes they call them fart fans. And this will get about 200 CFM per minute, which is pretty good for our 10 by 10 fish room. So the next thing I'm going to do, admittedly, might sound kind of crazy to some people, and I get that, is I'm going to take the texture out of the ceiling by smooth coating it. And this is just by putting some drywall mud on the ceiling and then sanding it to get it perfectly smooth. And the thought process behind this is that if walls or the ceiling in a fish room in a high humidity environment have texture on them, there's lots of nooks and crannies that potential moisture can settle in and then cause mold growth. And so a smooth surface where moisture can't really accumulate as easily, I think is going to be better long term. Now, like I said, this is kind of above and beyond, and not everyone may need to do this. I'm kind of trying to create a 10-year fish room that I just don't have to worry about any of this stuff. So this is just for peace of mind. And I did a lot of smooth coating in my house, so this was kind of a natural evolution to do this room as well. And like I said, this is really just getting drywall mud, smoothing it on with a big trowel, and then sanding it smooth. It's pretty easy to do. If you have a popcorn ceiling, it might be even more important to do this because popcorn ceilings have lots of nooks and crannies in them. But this is kind of just making sure that we're going above and beyond. So here we are after 2 skim coats and some sanding, and this has also been primed. We've got some electrical mapped out for some lighting. I also went ahead and primed some of our drywall patches around our new electrical. So this is all ready for paint. And this is the paint we're going to be using. There are a lot of good paints you could probably use in a fish room. There's some bathroom latex paints that have antifungal additives. Oil-based enamels are good and tough and probably pretty good for a fish room. But this is actually a water-based epoxy for commercial washable surfaces. This is not kind of the epoxy that you would paint a garage floor with. It's different than that. But this is an epoxy paint, and we're going to be painting the ceiling and all of our woodwork in the fish room. And this should really seal up everything and be pretty tough long term. So again, going for a 10-year fish room that I just don't have to worry about anything. Let there be light. So we've got some lighting in, strategically placed around where the counters are going to be, and that center electrical will be for a ceiling fan eventually. So you may have seen this little opening on some earlier video snippets, and we opened up the wall here so we could add these brackets to float an aquarium up on the wall. It'll just be an auxiliary aquarium. It's about 20 gallons, so not that big, but I might use it in the future for clownfish breeding or just as a holding tank, which will be just circulate water through it from the main system. And we had to add some extra 2x4 just to get these in the right position for us. And then we lag bolted them in. They're from a company called Centerline Brackets, and they're 3/8 inch steel. They're powder coated. They're really beefy. They're actually designed to support granite countertops in kitchens, so they can take a couple 100 pounds each. They're really beefy. They were a little painful to install because, of course, they need to be level this way, but they also need to be level this way and this way. So there was some shimming involved and some swearing involved for sure, but we finally got them there, and they should work out well. We're going to be putting a shelf on them, and then the tank on top of that shelf. So the walls in this room are pretty nasty. They're actually wallpaper that's been painted several times. So it was easier and I think better just to cover the walls with some plastic paneling. And this is what we're going to be using. It's called Polywall. It comes in a 4x8 sheet. It's about $20. And it's impervious to water, and it should be great. I like this a little bit better than the textured, kind of more stiff FRP panels, because the FRP panels have that texture in them. So for the same reason we took out the texture in the ceiling, we're going to be using this. And we're going to be using this stuff, which is just an adhesive to stick it to the wall. So it's easy to cut, and you get little channel pieces to bring the seams together, and it's pretty easy. Salt water can wreak havoc on cement. So we're going to seal the cement slab before putting the flooring down, just as an extra safety measure. The flooring is impervious to water as well, but we're just going to go an extra step. And this is the flooring we're going to use. This is they call it a luxury vinyl plank flooring. I don't know if it's luxury or not, but it's pretty good for a fish room just because it's impervious to water. And the rest of my house is done in 5-inch actual hickory wood, and this is hickory 5-inch, so it kind of matches. And we're going to glue it down. You can float it without adhesive, but it always feels spongy to me. And we are going to be having tank stands and a lot of weight on this floor, so I think gluing it down is going to be just the better way to go. And here it is. Turned out pretty well. We put a rubber cove base on it. You can see the little seam pieces for the paneling. We painted the studs and we're all ready. We've started to put in some kind of support pieces for our countertop. Electrical covers for the outlets that are going to be near water, which is really important. And yeah, we're looking pretty good. Oh, and yeah, I had to trim out the window. So I think that's it for this update. Thanks for coming along for the journey, and don't forget to like and subscribe.